Hi, and welcome to the Crafty Princess Diaries Podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Powley. You can find show notes over at my weblog, tammypowley.com. And if you're interested in finding out whenever I update and add a video to my website over on YouTube, or actually it's a channel, not a website, I'll have a link on this somewhere around here that you can click on. Or again, if you go over to tammypowley.com, in the show notes, I will have a link so that you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Right, so today is April 10th, 2015. It'll probably take me a day or two to edit this and upload it because I'm busy with finishing up as far as school goes. I have about 2 weeks left before the end of the semester, but I wanted to get a quick podcast in because I have some finished objects to show you. Today's episode is number 18, and it's entitled Yarn Review and Bead Crochet, and that's because, of course, I have some yarn to talk about that is related to a finished object, and I also dabbled in some bead crochet and have a finished object as far as that's concerned as well. Before I get going though, make sure that you stop over at my Ravelry group during the month of April. I have an April's finished object thread. We did this last month and I gave away a couple of prizes, and I decided to go ahead and do it again. I might do this every month depending on how it goes. So if you go over to my Ravelry group and enter anything that you finished as far as crafts go during the month of April, and by the way, that's any type of craft, not just yarn crafts. I realize that Ravelry is a yarn specific area, but I am all for beading, needlework, sewing, ceramics, whatever you got, and of course knitting, crochet, spinning, all of that too is welcome over there. And I do have a prize. In fact, if there's enough interest, I will always pull up another prize. But the main prize, at least one prize that we have going on for April, is a copy of a book. And it's a kind of a long title, so I wrote it down. It's called Love in Every Stitch, Stories of Knitting and Healing, and it's by Lee Grant. So she's a fairly well-known knitter and now author of this book. So I was approached by the publisher about giving away a free copy, and I thought that would be awesome to do that through the Ravelry group. All right, so on to finished objects. And yes, it's amazing that I have any finished objects because, as I mentioned, the end of the semester's winding down. I have a couple of weeks left before my summer starts up. And I know it's spring every place else in the world, but in Florida, we have 2 months, winter and summer, really. I mean, it's just either it's hot or it's cold. It's pretty much hot all the time, and then we have a few months of cold weather, which we call winter, and that's kind of it. So for me, it is really going to be my summer, even though technically every place in the world, not every place in the world, every place on this side of the hemisphere, spring has started. But yes, I did manage to get a few things finished. And the first one is related to the idea of the yarn review. Let me show you what I made. Yes, amazing. It's a big square. This is actually from a pattern. It's a free pattern online brand, and the pattern is called the Diagonal Comfort Blanket, and I believe honestly it's kind of a knockoff. I'm not 100%, but very similar to the Granny's washcloth pattern, where you start with a few stitches and you increase and increase. Actually, you would have started here. Okay, so basically you make a big diamond shape. All right, so this was supposed to be bigger. This may seem big on the screen, but it's really only like 2 by 2. It's about 2 feet by 2 feet. And so this is really not big enough for a baby blanket. For me, my average small baby blanket, if I make one, is usually at least 30 inches. So this is pretty far off at 30 inches. But this yarn, I will say, oh, and so you can see I have boo-boos here. I'm going to have to fix that. This is actually, I'm calling this the fur baby blanket because it's going to be for my fur babies and not a human baby. But yeah, that's a big boo-boo. I thought I had I thought I had found these and fixed these. And that's part of the problem I had with this yarn. The yarn I'm using is called Cascade's Pluscious. You can see that. There you go. And I don't know what color this is because the color number is 26. I don't know if that tells you anything, but this is the color of this yarn, 26. And it's made out of polyester. It's 100% polyester, and it says it's machine washable. Well, I got 2 skeins of this when I went to my not-so-local yarn shop a number of months ago. They were only $5 a piece, and this stuff, I mean, I will say it's super soft. It's kind of like chenille feeling. But the problem with me, at least for this yarn, was that and again, I'm not a super experienced knitter, so I am able to read my stitches for the most part, but this is so foofy and fluffy, and the yarn is not round. Let me pull out a strand. It's flat. So, right. And it's, you can see it's fuzzy. So I really had a hard time when I would make a mistake fixing it, because it was hard to see where the loops, were defined to get my hook back through there. Because I will say, I do think I'm getting better at being able to fix my mistakes. I've actually figured out, you can use a little crochet hook and pull the thing up and get the stitch back on your needle and all that. But I couldn't see them half the time. The other problem I had with this yarn, and it took me a while to figure out it was the yarn, I was having a lot of hand issues, especially with my right wrist, which I do have some bone loss in here. A few years ago, it was really, really painful, so I dragged myself to the doctor, and they took an x-ray and said, yeah, you have bone loss. So that will cause me pain if I overdo it sometimes, or if I, pick up something too heavy, that kind of thing. Or, in fact, I've had to cut back a lot on making wire jewelry. Anything with super heavy wire, I just can't do it anymore because I don't have the strength here, and I can overdo it and strain myself. So with this, I was really trying to finish it up because I have another knitting project I want to do, and I didn't want to have two going on, because this was just, the same thing over and over again. It's not a difficult pattern. And so I just thought, okay, I'm just going to jam on this and get this thing done before I start on my next knitting project, which I have picked out. Well, at some point, my wrist was killing me, and I realized, I'm knitting too much because I'm working on this and everything, so I'll crochet for a while. Well, even that was hurting. And I finally realized I really think it's this yarn, because it doesn't have a lot. There's no give. There's no, like when I washed this and tried to block it a little bit, there's no elasticity to this. All right, so it's almost probably similar to working with cotton in that it's very, I don't know, it doesn't stretch when you're working with it. And so I think that is probably why I was having, the wrist problems. So anyway, I set it aside for a while. Another reason why I set it aside for a while was because I read on Ravelry, and I can't even remember what prompted me to do this, but I went over to Ravelry and looked up, this yarn. I think it's because I realized I wasn't going to have enough to make the size that I wanted. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get another skein somewhere or whatever. But anyway, I looked it up. A lot of people on there said that it does not wash well. And it does say on here that it's washable. Okay. And I was like, oh, crap. I was about halfway through with this, and it's not even going to be washable. And it's polyester, for God's sakes. So I made a swatch, which is very unusual for me. I tend to be anti-swatch. And washed it numerous times. I just threw it in with all my other laundry, when I had a color load. And dried it and everything, and it was fine. It washed up fine. So I'm not sure what, I did not go back to double check and see what those people had made with this particular yarn, but I thought I would mention it since I have other issues with it. It is too bad, because I will say it is so soft, and the colors, this particular color is really pretty. I picked it out thinking, well, maybe I'll make a girly baby blanket for my niece's baby, but they have so many other colors that the colors just, they just pull you in. And I do like the texture. In fact, when I showed this to my husband, he was like, wow, that's so soft looking. And he's like, ooh, I really like this. And I was like, well, that's too bad, because I'm never going to never working with this yarn again, because it just was not pleasant to work with. And like I said, I constantly trying to find out when I made a boo-boo, and trying to get the stuff back, the hook back in there, or the needle back in there, was too problematic. But anyway, just a warning, if you do use this, it's inexpensive, and for what I used it for, it washed up fine. But yeah, if you have hand issues, it might be problematic for you. So you have been warned. Which again is too bad. I'm going to fix that little boo-boo, and my cats will probably really enjoy this. So, alright, so that's one finished object. Is my other finished object. This is probably like my third Blair the Bunny since I've done this podcast, so I apologize in advance, but I really like making these guys. And this is for a friend of mine who had seen the same Blair the Bunny, which I had sold at a craft show. she saw a picture of it on Instagram and asked me to make one for her little girl. And I had yarn left over, which this happens to be Lion Brand Baby Soft yarn in the circus print colorway. And I used a size G hook. Blair the Bunny, if you don't remember, is of course a Fresh Stitches pattern. It costs about $4 or $5. And yeah, he turned out cute. I used felt for the eyes and just glued them on because her little girl's very little. She may be a year old at the most. Okay, so yeah, Blair the Bunny is done. So the other thing that is a finished object is this bracelet. It's a bead crochet bracelet using hemp. You can see it's kind of, I think you can see the texture of the hemp. And it has a little, I put a loop here on the end with an extra bead, and I have a lobster claw clasp. Now, this is something, it was one of those things where I just kind of, this idea popped into my head, and I went and tested it out, and it worked. Basically what I did, and you know, this is a prototype. I have ideas to make it better, but it does fit me, and I think it looks pretty good as is. It's just I know how, there's things that could be better about it. Let's put it that way. Basically all I did is you string the beads on. These are size 8 glass seed beads. String the beads on and then do a chain. Chain, string the bead, chain, string the bead. Then I did single crochet across, and then went around on the other side, did single crochet across again, and then I made loops on the end and of each one. Of course, you leave, just like any crochet or knitting thing, you leave a long tail. Make a loop, and then I inserted the tail back in here and added the clasp. My problems with this is that I like to make it a little thicker, and I don't like this large space here, so I would make it longer, and I'm not sure about this clasp. I probably would go with more of a toggle clasp. But as far as a prototype, I think this turned out fairly well. All right, so that's what I did with the bead crochet. And then more bead stuff. If you saw my last episode, you know that I am insane, and I am making 40 what I'm calling beaded dreadlocks, because I'm participating in what's called a here's one of my latest beaded dreadlocks, because I'm going on a cruise in middle of May after school gets out, and part of it's a Disney cruise, and one of the things that you can participate on with, it's not affiliated with Disney, by the way, but it's called a fish extender exchange, and you get together with other families and exchange little gifties and things, and there's going to be a pirate party. So the idea is that they would wear this in their hair, like a dreadlock, like Captain Jack. Okay, this is for a little girl. This would be for an adult female. They're in the same cabin, so I made them kind of similar looking. This has a little heart dangle bead. It's just a rose quartz bead dangle, and this is a copper heart charm on the end, or pendant. So I am about halfway through of the 40 that I have to make, and I do like making them. They're fun. It's just, I'm kind of overwhelmed with the large number of them that I have to make. I'm kind of like, wow, 40, that's a lot. I think I'm up to, I want to say I've made 22 of them. Okay, so I'm like past the halfway point. But the other thing too is that you can't, for me anyway, when I'm beading, it hurts my back if I go for hours and hours and hours. That's their cabin number. I probably shouldn't show you that. Their name's not on it though. So, but yeah, it's something where you can't sit there and make, like, I can't make 20 beaded dreadlocks and just sit there for hours on end doing that, because it hurts my back. So I can maybe do about 4 at a time and not have too many back issues, but they take some time to make. I haven't turned the timer on to see how long each one makes, but they do take a little bit of time. So, but I'm progressing. I will have them done, by the time as far as school ends about a week or so before the trip, and so I can, I can jam on it if I have to at the very end if necessary. But what I've been trying to do is just make every few days I'll make a couple and, get something accomplished as far as that goes. So those are all my finished objects. Yes. All right, so WIPs, works in progress. One is kind of related. Hold on, let me fix my notes here. All right, one is related to Blair, my finished object Blair, and that is that the same person I'm making made the bunny for, she has a little boy as well, and she asked me to make a monkey. And I did have a pattern. I'd already purchased this from Brush Stitches, Owen the Monkey, and I had the yarn. So she did say that she would pay me for these, but I'm struggling with that now. I mean, she's not like a BFF friend, but she's someone I've known forever. I've known her since she was in high school, and now she's all grown up and has 2 little babies of her own, and so I feel kind of weird about charging her money. So especially because I already had the patterns, I already had the yarn. It's not like, it is taking my time, but I have wanted to make the monkey for a while, and now this gives me a reason to make that monkey pattern, which I've never made before, so that's a good thing. The other thing I'm working on is looming, because as I mentioned, I was having, problems with my hands, and I think I was on Facebook and I was complaining about it, and somebody said, I don't know, there was a conversation back and forth, and all of a sudden I realized, ding, dummy, get your looms out, because I have the round looms, I have the straight looms. I have probably made, 50 loom hats on those round looms. I've made a lot of hats on those round looms. So the straight looms I had played with some, but never really did anything. I just kind of like, okay, now I get how it works, and nothing really came to me as far as what to make. And so I took out the straight looms because I'm kind of not in the mood for hats, and I thought, well, since I have time and I can't really do anything with as far as the knit and crochet for this was just like 2 days, I figured, well, let me play around with the straight looms again, and maybe I'll get some ideas. Plus one of the projects that I want to make soon is a knitted bag, and I thought I might be able to use this to do the knitted bag. I don't think I'm going to, because the yarn I have is not really appropriate for this. In fact, I don't know if you have ever used a loom before. These, and by the way, these are just inexpensive plastic looms. Let's see, I wrote the name down. Nifty Knitter is the vendor that makes these, and they're super fun stuff. You can work stuff up really fast. The one drawback, though, is you can see the pegs are really far apart, and so that means you really need to use bulky yarn. Like for the hats, I used to use Wool Ease, the Line Brand Wool Ease, thick and quick. And that worked really well to make hats. And I mean, I could whip a hat up in 2 hours. They were wonderful. But the problem is, like with this, I'm using a worsted weight. I think what this yarn is, I did not have the ball band anymore, but if I remember correctly, this is Vanna's Choice, Line Brand Vanna's Choice, just, worsted. And you can see through it. Here we go, like that. See, you can see holes through it, which isn't necessarily bad, depending on what you're making. And I'm quadrupling this, in fact. So when I put this on here, I have two wraps, and then when I do a strand around, I do 2 more wraps. So I pull 2 over 2. So I've essentially doubled the yarn, and it still has the hole issues, right? The mesh, it's more like of a mesh type of look than a closed up sort of pattern. I have no idea what this is. I'm calling it the Mystery Loom Project because I think I might turn it into a little mesh bag with a little handle thing at the end. I'm just really doing it to, again, have something to do when my wrist is hurting me, but also testing out what maybe something will come to my mind as far as using this in making other items. Like the longer loom, there's 3 or 4 different sizes of the straight looms that come together. And the longer loom, I'm thinking of doing something like this and making a baby blanket. So we'll see how that goes. This is my when my wrist hurts, but I want to play with yarn project. And of course I'm keeping it in this old drawstring Ravelry bag, and my dogs love this bag. Every time, in fact, the other day I was sitting on the couch, I took it out, I'm working on it, I take the bag and I put it down, and Little comes over there, little dude, and he like grabs it and he starts going away with it. I was like, no. So there's something, I guess it's is made of organic cotton, I think, so they think organic cotton is yummy, I guess, so. Oh, and of course, I'm not even going to show you, but I'm still making mitered squares. That's just a good go-to when I don't have anything in the works and it's late at night and I want to make something, but I don't want to think too much. I don't know how many squares I have. I probably have, I'm going to guess, a couple of dozen. So I want to have a pretty good number before I start stitching them together, because a lot of them are the same color, and so I need some more variety, so as far as that goes. All right, so future projects. This kind of relates also to acquisitions. I had purchased some yarn at my local, I call it local yarn shop. It's not so local. The not so local yarn shop of mine that I like to go to in Cocoa Village, Florida. And I bought a skein of this Cascade souk. I bought one skein like a dummy. I do this all the time. I never learn my lesson. I bought one skein. It's beautiful. It's got silk. Let's see I know it's silk and wool. I'm trying to look on the little card here. 55% wool, silk, 45% wool. This is the rainbow colorway. I had purchased this. I had it wound up, got home, and I thought, you know what I should do with this? I should make a little tote bag, like a crossbody tote bag. So when I go on the cruise, when I go from the cabin and just go to dinner or lunch or whatever, I don't have to bring all my stuff. I don't have to bring like a whole big old purse, but I have my stuff with me. I have a few things, you know, my wallet, whatever, that I don't want to leave in the cabin. But I don't have to bring every little thing. And of course, one skein, that's not going to do it, girl. You so stupid. So, luckily, I was on. I can't believe it. If it was either Facebook or Instagram or possibly both. And Little Knits had a thing out that said 50% off. Now, I still had to pay shipping, you know, so that wasn't too keen, but because shipping I think was like $10. But hey, 50% off, I got another skein of rainbow. So the 2 skeins I think will do me, because it's not going to be a huge bag. Basically, I'm just talking about a rectangular shaped, I don't even have a pattern for it, I'm just going to wing it, but a rectangular shaped pouch thing with maybe a flop over, you know, cover, little, and a long strap. That's it. Just very, very simple. I may or may not line it depending on how crazy I feel. As it happens, I do have some material. I think it's a fat square it has a similar coloring to this. I mean, it's more muted, but it actually looks more like a batik look to it. So it would probably work almost perfectly as a lining. Again, depending on how, you know, how I get. So since this was only 50% off, and I really think I only need two of these to do it, I also got 50% off two of these. This is the jewel tone. And that's pretty, I'd say it's a bit washed out because I have sun coming in. The sun's kind of going in and out. It's a little bit more rich than this, but that's pretty. Actually, this is probably better. Yeah, there you go. Yes. So, yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous. This is, I mean, you can feel the silk. It feels fabulous, real textury. If my bag works and I want to make another one, I would do this. Like I said, I got 2 skeins, so I think I'm going to be okay with that. And that, again, that was from Little Knits. They have some pretty good sales. They're up in Seattle. It's a little shop in Seattle, I believe. So, you know, I just have to rein myself in. I'm really careful about my purchases when it comes to crafts. I usually have something kind of in mind. You know, I mean, I may not have a specific project all the time, but I kind of know what I like, and I don't, you know, I don't know. And I guess some of it too is I make a lot of accessories. I'm not a garment knitter or garment crochet person, So I'm not going to buy a sweater's quantity of yarn because I'm never going to make a sweater because I would never wear it. My personal little bit to end up the little podcast here. Let's see. I'm working a lot on my YouTube channel. I'm not really sure. I don't expect to make like tons of money over there. I have checked into it. There are people who are doing really well, but they're like super popular. They have 1 million subscribers, and but I will say all of them also have other things going on. Like they're not just making money off of YouTube. They have other, I don't know, other fingers in the pies, other places. And my idea though is more, I want to have something that is an area along with my blog that of course is video based, that kind of connects to crafting, which is what I talk about on my weblog, and is an area where I can do a show versus just tell, which is something you can do obviously with videos that you can't necessarily do the same when you write. Even if you have really good images, it's just not quite the same thing. And so I'm hoping to kind of create a balance between my blog and my YouTube channel to have a little bit of both. But I will say for the YouTube channel, I'm really focusing on that now because I haven't really, I've just been throwing stuff over there and I haven't really organized things that well. But now I'm organizing things. I have, playlists. I kind of have more of an idea of what I want to do, not just do podcasts over there, but, reviews of craft products and a few how-tos, informative videos, that kind of thing, which I actually had a few of those up already, which have done fairly well as far as views go. I have one metal clay one. Of course, that's been up like for 5 years. It's got something like 5,000 views, which I'm amazed. I just noticed that the other day. I was like, oh, because I did that book so long ago that, and it was just a clip from the video that went with the book. So I'm kind of surprised, but 5 years, hopefully I would have something, right? But anyway, so that's what I'm working on as far as, my blogging and that sort of thing. As far as my real job, we're down to the wire. We have a couple of weeks left of the semester. My grades are due April 28th, and then we have commencement on May 2nd. And then I will be off for 6 weeks, which is wonderful. I say off, but of course, I have to prepare. I teach the second semester of the summer, so I have to get my classes prepped for that. So I do have to do that. And then, of course, I will probably wait till when I'm back for the summer semester, but my fall classes, I have to prep for those. And one of the classes is going to have a new book, so that's going to require, possibly, it depends on which book we end up with. One book I would require very little on my part to redo my class. Other books would be like a total redo, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm always tweaking my classes. I do think maybe I'm going to add some more online components for my face-to-face classes so that they can, get some grammar practice in. I'm kind of trying to figure out how to do that through Blackboard, because Blackboard wants to make either everything a test or everything anonymous, which is silly because I would like to make exercises, grammar exercises for them to do where they would have automatic feedback. So, okay, you got this wrong. This is why it was wrong. But it can't really be anonymous, because if they come to me and say, when I did number 4, this happened, and I don't know, like I can't go check and see what they did, that's not real helpful to anyone, right? So I haven't figured out quite how to do that. How do I make it so that it's in Blackboard, I have access to it so I can assist students, but it's not really a grade per se. So it's just a way for them to get practice in, because like anything else, if you practice, you get better at it. Looking forward to a couple of weeks and jamming on it. I've got grading at the wazoo. I just finished up a big batch of grading, and I have more rolling in, I guess on Tuesday, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday I have some big research papers coming in. But I did finish a massive grading bonanza over this past week, and that's why I thought I'd go ahead and get another podcast in, especially since I did have some finished objects to show off. But otherwise, I'm going to let you go and just remind you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have some jewelry videos coming up. I've made a list of video ideas, so I might go ahead and try to, after school's out, really get a bunch of those done, and then I'll have the time to edit. And if the thing is with subscribing to any channel, my channel or anybody else's channel, you get an automated email when a video comes out, and then that way something's there. You don't have to try to remember what's the name of her channel or where's that link at or whatever. You get a notification through the email, and I personally find that really helpful. There's a number of podcasts that I subscribe to like that, and a number of crafting websites or crafting channels over there that I find really useful. So subscribing is really the best way to find out what's happening over on YouTube. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you again for coming by. If you're new, please stop by my channel or head over to tammypally.com, and you can look up and find show notes and helpful links. If you're not new, thanks for coming by again. I appreciate it. I really do. I have a little group of you guys, and hey, I know you're out there now. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your crafting.